And they gathered at El Vaquero in the bullpen, a hotel turned bank turned cafe in a kind of cowboy version of a cigar bar. Right there on Main Street, Groover. That's right, Groover. Gruver. They get to cussing and discussing and cooking up schemes about how they could all make more money, but not all of them agreed. And so it was with my grandfather, Joe Davidson, the youngest boy they called Pike. He had a different angle, and he didn't feel the idea of feedlots was right. And from what I hear, those debates became an awful mess. And he had to move his cows off the homestead, and he moved to DUMAS. That's Dumas. And what he said later in life was that he wasn't sure he was right, but he'd had a hunch and he stood his ground. Makes me wonder about that whole mad cow thing that came around. But back then, and even today, there's a heavy burden on men to prosper and protect and grow the county you're in. Sometimes the lines get really tight. It's hard to tell between wrong and right. On the one hand, the big man from Austin came around, and they all cheered and clapped and broke the ground. And the second and third generations were there, and the smell of money was hanging in the air. On the other hand, it was hard to know if this new way was the right way to go. The pressure to keep up with the times had them running hard and maybe even half blind. Sometimes they'd get to wondering whether they'd strayed from what Homer had handed down, the sowing and reaping and living a good life in a good town. Was it prosperity or selfish greed to have Mexican hired hands and maids and such? And in trying to overcome not enough, did it all become too much? Did they let their pride get in the way and watch it start tearing things up? Yes, it made a mess, but they'd hit a bullseye and it stuck, because it fed the 5,000 and more, sure enough. And some of them later spoke to me with a deep down regret about how kinfolk got cross ways and couldn't forgive or forget. They'd sure enough made a name for themselves, but it seems they got confused, and with misunderstandings, they all scattered about no matter what they had to lose. Generations didn't talk for generations, and it became just too easy to lose track. But some four down began to call on the repairer of the breach for the facts. With the dust storm of stories swirling in the air, it was hard to know exactly how, but it seemed all hell broke loose. And we wanted the boxcars of our heritage hooked again, all the way from the engine to the caboose. As I prayed to the Lord to help me piece it all together again, I believe the truth of the matter is wafted in with the wind. And I now know in my heart of hearts, as sure as the big blue sky, that if all these cowboys were here today, every last one of them would say, it's not always easy to do the right thing the right way, but you just gotta pray for help and then do your best to try.